is a formidable partnership, and it is a
equity and environment
support for the African Adaptation Acceleration Program, but also for the African inclusivity. We need to make sure recovery is inclusive, and we also have to manage.
The Minister of Denmark recently appointed, already made his mark in his first few months in office. Minister Laura Levins, you have heard your colleagues and African leaders, you've heard Akin.
However, you can see by millions of the world's people who are at risk. In our ongoing battle against climate.
In Kenya, we are well aware that climate change poses an existential threat to our survival. Indeed, Kenya is ranked 31st most vulnerable country in the world. And research shows that climate change, as I said before, leads to about a 3% loss in GDP annually. Extreme interannual temperature and precipitation fluctuations accounts for about 50% of the variability in maize yield and undermines water availability and negatively also impacts public health and exasperates our food insecurity. We in Kenya therefore have deployed significant national resources to scale up adaptation efforts, and Kenya's updated National Determined Contribution provides a comprehensive overview of adaptation priorities with an estimated implementation cost of approximately $4.4 billion every year. And while we can realistically mobilize domestic resources to meet about 13% of this cost, we would need our external partners to support us with the remaining 87%. And this is a scenario that does not apply just to Kenya. As I have just said, the situation that we are dealing with is not unique to Kenya. Indeed, as indicated in the recent UNEP Adaptation Gap Report, current adaptation cost estimates for developing countries are about $70 billion per year, and this is expected to rise to approximately $140 billion to $300 billion by the year 2030, if no adaptation measures are made today. So, ladies and gentlemen, to achieve the long-term objectives of the Paris Agreement, we must all develop our long-term greenhouse gas strategies that articulate clearly our vision and how we are going to manage climate change impacts. And I am happy to announce today that my administration is in the process of developing a long-term greenhouse gas emission strategy for 2050, and we aim to submit our strategy to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change before COP26 in Glasgow later this year. As I associate myself with the remarks of those who have spoken before me, let me also take this opportunity to conclude my remarks with the same rallying call to all global leaders to achieve economic prosperity today and to secure it for our future generations. We must all simultaneously take bold actions now to bend not only the COVID-19 pandemic curve, but as well as the climate change curve. I want to thank you all for your attention and look forward to partnering with you to achieve this noble agenda. Thank you all for your attention. We have emphasized the need for climate action that underpins sustainable development, indeed in the post-COVID-19 period, and also our green recovery plans to build back better. I believe we do this in recognition of the fact that Africa is one of the most vulnerable continents to climate change and climate vulnerability, a situation that unfortunately has been aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Multiple systemic shocks are now simultaneously threatening African communities, and a health crisis, an economic crisis, a food security crisis have all been compounded by this subject that we are continuously debating, that of the climate change crisis. The impact, therefore, of the COVID-19 pandemic on Africa's social economic development has been devastating. For the first time in 25 years, the African continent is experiencing a decrease in our gross domestic product, a decrease estimated by more than 3% in 2020. And this has rendered many, many millions of our people into extreme poverty. Improved access to finance at scale is therefore key if African economies are to be able to restart their economies and indeed once again embark on a low-carbon, resilient, and inclusive recovery, of which we are partners to, but not the cause of. I want to, at this stage, acknowledge with deep appreciation the initiative by the African Development Bank and the Global Adaptation Center to implement a new and much bolder African Adaptation Acceleration Program that we have heard of previously. This program, ladies and gentlemen, I believe will go a long way to support countries like Kenya to scale up climate adaptation and resilience and to provide significant resources for climate adaptation throughout Africa and indeed throughout the Caribbean, the Pacific, and most of the global South. So today, we gather to call upon all global leaders to demand an ambitious climate action, intensify resource mobilization efforts, and increase technical support to developing countries, especially those in the South, in technology as well as capacity building. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate and I want to underscore on the need to also leverage private sector as well as international finance if we are to achieve this ambitious climate adaptation agenda. It is only through partnerships like this that we can strengthen and accelerate resilience across our continent. The current level of ambition, ladies and gentlemen, we must agree is too low to meet the Paris Agreement of 1.5 degrees centigrade. The 2020 Interim United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change Synthesis Report submitted nationally determined contributions. This indicates that we can only close the emissions gap and build the resilience of our communities if the major emitters raise their ambition. And all countries submit their updated nationally determined contributions before COP26 later this year.